Alright, here's the time lapse of the rebuild of the pond, the second weekend that I've worked on it. And I started this weekend where I left off last, basically digging the pond out still. So here I started removing the fourth or the third layer, which I'm going down 4 feet. So this layer goes from a 2-foot depth down to 4 feet, and it's about 4 feet wide and 5 foot wide, different directions. When I started working on it, it had rained earlier that week, so the first couple layers of it was just mud, and then after I got past the mud, it was clay. And luckily, by the clay being wet, it wasn't that hard. Here in Oklahoma, when clay gets really dry, you basically kind of have to use a pick and chip it away because it's so hard. It gets almost like concrete. It gets so hard. But so I was kind of fortunate. Yeah, it kind of sucked at first digging in the mud, but it worked out for the good. And as you see, my little creation there, by that hole being in the middle of the pond, I wasn't going to be able to just throw the dirt from my shovel into a wheelbarrow sitting at the edge. So I took the boards and angled them down into the pond, and then used my yard wagon, which is a little bit more stable than a wheelbarrow, to roll it down on the boards, and then it was just right there. All I had to do is lift it up and dump it in, which worked pretty well for me. The other thing I did is I got the 2x4 out again, and it's line it up on the edges, and I can tell where my depth is. By doing that, I know I was down to 4 feet. Also, in the very middle, when I got down to the 4 foot depth, I went on 4 more inches in a kind of round spot and made a depression there, that when I'm draining the pond and cleaning it, I have a spot to put the pump at the very low spot, so I can wash everything down in there and get it nice and clean, and have where it's all in one area. So the next morning we started by putting this fabric in. It's basically a weed guard fabric that we use in the landscape industry. It's a commercial grade. It's more or less for weed fabric in landscape beds, but it's still the same purpose. Keep roots from growing up and poking into your under your liner. You just want to make sure you cover up all the spots. I've even seen people take blowtorches and melt it together. I forgot to turn on the camera as we pulled in the liner, but all we done is pulled the liner across the pond and then unfolded it. It made it a little bit easier. Then we started the water running into it, and the weight of the water slowly sinks the liner into the hole of the pond that I've already dug out, and the weight of it also pushes it all in, all the voids out. And this allows us to get the liner to lay down and not sink anymore. So once we start putting the weight of the rocks on it, that liner's already set down as it needs to be, and it won't take the chance of pulling that liner, ripping it, or knocking the rocks off. So as it filled, we went around and kept adjusting the liner, getting the creases to lay down and such. I think it took about maybe somewhere around about 2 hours for it to fill up. What I just put in the pond right there, that's actually my pump that runs my waterfall. And then I've got just a cheap hose that runs around to a drain system that I have go from my backyard to my front. Basically allows me to pump out the water a lot faster and instead of pumping it out right there on the ground where we're walking and working, it's going to a drain system that goes to the front yard, and then sheet flows to the street. So it's pretty nice, pretty convenient when you're working on the pond. So I just turned it on, got the water as full as I thought it needed to be, and you can see how the liner's all pressed down. So, drain the water back out so we can now work and start laying rocks. When you're laying rocks, in my opinion, there's no right or wrong way to do it. You just want to make sure they're secure and they're not going to fall. If somebody steps on them or pushes them or whatever, they're secure. It's kind of like Tetra. You just see what fits using all different shapes and sizes, and that makes it look more natural. Where if you're trying to use all one size and all square, then it's not going to look natural. Right here, we're building up the wall in front of the skimmer box. Kind of get some of the wall done before I flip that liner back to attach the liner to the skimmer box and get the front faceplate on it. Do that so that liner doesn't fall all the way down. So I wish that tree wasn't in the way and you could kind of see what I'm doing, but basically I'm putting a bead of silicone. It's pond silicone. It's non-toxic. So you put that on there, and then you lay your liner back up against it, and you put your faceplate on the inside of your pond, and then you take a drill and you drill your holes through. You use self-tapping screws and drill through into the skimmer box. After that's complete, you go into the back side of the skimmer box and you use the utility knife to cut the liner out to make the hole. While I'm doing that, my buddy is finishing up the wall on the waterfall right in the front. Actually, now he's moved over. Keeps kind of jumping back and forth. We've kind of got a little bit different style of doing things. I want to use a lot larger rock. He wants to use a little bit smaller rocks. So when you look at the pond, you see our different styles. But here we're putting that big rock in for the waterfall. I wish I'd have kind of turned the camera so you could see it a little bit better, but we just kind of put a level on it and then stepped back and looked at it, seen if we liked it, made some adjustments. Right here we're actually making some different levels for the fish to work on. So right in the middle you can see one, and then kind of right below the waterfall rock, he's blocking right now, but made just two crevices, kind of caves that they can get away in. Then right here we put this flat stone hanging over into the pond. It maybe hangs over about 8 inches. The one thing that we did do is took the time, got some really flat rocks up under it, and made it secure. That way if somebody goes walking onto it like a little kid, it's not going to tilt forward and fall into the pond. It can actually hold our weight. I say our weight. I weigh about 200 pounds, and I was able to almost stand on the very end of it, and it wasn't moving. So that makes me feel comfortable if a little kid gets out there. But we went around, try to finish up the pond best we can. I've got one more big rock that's going to go in here to the bottom right part of the screen. That was another pretty cool one. It made another cave back over there. Or I say cave, it's more or less a hide that they can go back under it. I mean, it's still pretty open, but it's very a lot of work. There's a lot of rock in there. There's probably with a pickup truck load, there's probably, I would say, 6 pickup loads of rock in there. So there's placing the other big rock and then getting stones on the back side. But that's pretty much it. Hope you guys liked it. Let me know, and I think I've got maybe about 1 or 2 more weekends to go. But comment, let me know what you think. Thanks, guys.